do with Johnny, by the way. He controls the screen. And by the way, this video that he produced on his channel, this is from his channel, it's different than the actual one. He went back and put this in over the audio. So he used the audio and then he puts this in. But notice how he takes out information and makes it appear like she actually answered him, like there was some sort of communication. So he sends her this email, and he sent it to me.
Hang on, oh look, it's Johnny's in. Johnny's here.
Oh, okay, great. So this is from him to me, and then this is in response to the email that I sent her, but she never answered him. So anyway, yeah, this is projection and inversion. I'm surprised that Giovanni is not on this pedophile list. I'm pretty sure he is now after the debate. Giovanni, you're muted. Welcome to the show. We were wondering about you. We were concerned.
There we go. Yeah. Hey, Victor. Good to see you.
Hey, by the way, the gentleman who introduced us came in. He was very brave, and he was very kind to come in your absence. So I want to thank him, and you're welcome to stick around if you'd like, sir. He's from England, and he was sharing some information about what it's like over there. So
you bet. Is that's Luke then?
Yeah. Hey,
Luke. Thank you so much for everything. Appreciate you putting us together. And I never got the link from Victor until just now, so I'm not surprised. There's a lot of fools just going on. And yeah, please stick around, Luke. I have to tell you, I am still recovering. I have plans for a complete and thorough expose of Dustin Nemos Krieger. I fully believe the best thing you can say about him is that he's a psychopath, but the worst thing you can say about him is that he's a COINTELPRO agitator, purposefully out there saying insane things. So all the way back in 2021, Reuters outed him as being part of the Q movement, and I think also being part of what we now call properly the Fedsurrection, which is a thoroughly controlled event. And I believe what's going on is he is a counterintelligence operative who's out there saying insane things in order to spin anyone who questions official narratives as being like him, as being just really, really insanely out there, racist, race baiting. And I didn't fully appreciate it. I actually foolishly going into that debate, which is a total setup. It was an absolute total setup. He has a shtick that he has. He has a whole theater, and I just was watching Victor's expose of him, the previous debate where he leaves. If he gets his theater interrupted in any way, then he quits like a child.
Yeah.
And that's what I didn't even really appreciate what I was doing, but it was obvious to me that when he was running up and monopolizing the screen with his cherry-picked verses out of context, that he was putting on a show. And he was twisting and manipulating. That's all he's got. That's all he's got. I spent 2 days studying history, names, places, and dates to prove that the Jews don't run it all. And so I'm going back into black nobility. I'm going back into the Khazars. I'm going back into Rothschild. I'm covering Rockefeller, which, by the way, has no real relation to Judaism. And he's just fixating on coast-to-coast campfire, all Jews are Nephilim. And by the way, Yahweh said, wipe the Nephilim out. Yeah. So he claims, and I was in this Twitter battle with him yesterday so he would follow me like some kind of stalking, just really, really creeping me out by constantly following me. I would go into my Twitter account and disconnect his follow of me, and he'd come right back and follow me again. After we did this 6 or 7 times, I was forced to give him the propaganda coup of blocking him because I just was totally creeped out by his insistence on following me on Twitter. But before I disconnected, before I severed that tie, he's out there posting his insanity. And I'm glad I did, because I was not fully prepared with just how in-depth his psychosis is. White Jesus hates Jews. Yahweh hates Jews. Hey, white Jesus hates Jews. Are you a Jew, Johnny? Are you out of your mind? Are you threatening me? Are you threatening me? So I'm going to expose this entirely with a documentary. I'm slowly piecing this together. And as I just said, I fully expect that at best, he's psychotic. But at worst, he is a counterintelligence provocateur.
Totally figures, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with your analysis there, because he does have. I have a psychology degree, and I did counseling for people, and yeah, he's got psychotic. Absolutely, he's a compulsive liar. He's also a toxic narcissist, and he's a convicted felon. And yeah, all these things have me figuring he's part of what's called Project Pogo and Project Zephyr. So his channel, they monitor his channel because the people that are on his channel are filled with hatred, and they're also it's a cult. I call him the modern Jim Jones, and I don't know if you know what he's trying to do now. He's trying to start his own little Jonestown. He wants to be the mayor, and he says he'll be the sheriff, and he'll be giving people he'll make them his police force and stuff. I don't understand how these people follow him. He does have a considerable following, which is why I've been following his story, because if he turns out to be the next Jim Jones, I'll be the guy who was reporting on that and warning people about it. And I don't know if he also drinks roach poison, and that's the kind of stuff that he can actually do to put in the Kool-Aid and have people die from that. I know people say, oh, well, if you do it in moderation. Yeah, I'm not talking about doing it in moderation. I'm talking about this guy poisoning the Kool-Aid and then getting his followers who believe everything he says. I'm sure they've been attacking you, have they? On X and on your channel?
I purposely try to stay aloof from it, and I'm going to continue to stay aloof from it. It hasn't been too bad. I had one I had one associate that attacked me because he felt like I gave Krieger and Nemos a victory because I stopped him from his puppet show. And I said exactly what I said just now. Listen, all I did was I put the brakes on his prestidigitation. All I did was I stopped him. I told him, listen, you have verses that you claim proves that white Jesus hates Jews. Share them by speaking them. You don't get to put on a show. I'm not going to put on a show. You don't put on a show. So that's all I did is I stopped him from putting on a show and monopolizing the attention with the visual. That's all I did. In no way, shape, or form did I give him a victory. I stopped him from monopolizing the visuals, which is all part of his act. Once you take that out of his act, he doesn't really have any data to stand on. That's the point. That's the point. And wherever anybody has checked him in the past, for instance, on Genesis 4:1, he doesn't stand by on Cain being literally a child of Satan anymore. Well, that's because it's obvious, and people have called him in the past that Scripture completely contradicts him on this. It says very clearly, Adam knew his wife, and she said, by the grace of God, I have begotten a son, Cain. So he can't go with that, so he simply backs off from it. There are people who were involved. They're almost certainly they're part of the government COINTELPRO counterintelligence operation, the Gamble couple, Brian and Alicia Gamble, who were part of the Fedsurrection. And he admits on Twitter that he knew them. And then he backs away and says, "Oh, I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna burn it all down. I'm gonna burn it all down." That's how he retreats. So I'm not surprised. Listen. The more I hear, Victor, and Luke, the more I hear, the more I'm convinced that I don't think the insanity plea works. I think that he is scripted. I think that he is an intelligence asset, not necessarily an agent, but certainly an operative. I think he's an intelligence asset. And their goal for him is to get him to pull in truth seekers that aren't properly balanced, that aren't utilizing proper critical thinking, and for him to be the name and the face of us, so that when the government steps up their surveillance state and their crackdown, their Stalinist crackdown, which is already in play, he's their excuse. Him and by the way, Jim Jones was very in tight with the government. He was housing and urban development official, I think, possibly for Jerry Brown, right? He was in tight. There's pictures of him standing with Jerry Brown. Jerry Brown, an almost Jesuit priest. Jerry Brown's father, the governor of California. Jerry Brown, governor, stepped down, and governor again. Devout Roman Catholic, far left Roman Catholic. And so, absolutely insane. I'm building up my case, Victor and Luke, and just off the top of my head, here's something else I have to say. From a Christian perspective, I have just this sense of malignant energy. I have this sense of malignant demonic energy. It's my own personal take, okay? I'm not going to really do that too hard on the expose. That's just my personal take. It's very, very difficult for me. I can only take him in small doses because there's just so much malignant energy coming from this individual that I have to just stay calm, not allow him to trigger me. The levels of deception, and he's smooth and quick. It's very important to him that he maintains this act of his and he monopolizes the show. So, me personally, I'm done with debates at all. I'm done with debates. That in and of itself, Victor, the very process of a debate of I sneak you with this and you react to it instantly. No. That's not logic. That's not investigation. That's not how you properly refute disinformation, okay? The way you refute disinformation, especially if you're getting blindsided, which I would have been had I allowed him to continue on. I didn't know that he had that much. I did study up. I have the complete breakdown on Revelation 2:9, Revelation 3:9. Especially John 8:44. I have that completely broken down where Jesus says, I know that you are a child of Abraham. But here's the difference. Right in that passage, like 41, 42, somewhere around there, he says, if you sin, you are a slave of sin. What does Jesus say? He's not saying, oh, you're all physically offspring of Satan. He's saying by sinning without repentance, you make yourself an offspring of Satan. In the same way that everyone who is born again is a son of God through the blood of Jesus Christ. You're not physically actually a son of God. You are spiritually a son of God. Okay? But he's got this insanity that he promotes that is all part of this shtick, that it is an actual biological lineage, which he has no proof of that whatsoever. And this is exactly what I meant in this back and forth I went with him. It is an unfalsifiable fallacy. He doesn't need to come up with proof. He doesn't need to come up with actual genealogical records. You don't have to come up with some DNA breakdown that he did through an electron microscope. It's just poop. He throws it against the wall and sees if it sticks. It's not real journalism. It's not real investigation. And that's the point. And I'm going to destroy him on this. I'm not even remotely done.
Wow, I appreciate your enthusiasm, and I'm so glad that you came on the show, because my concern was that he was going to take this and then throw it back in your face.
Take it. I am going to completely break down verse by verse. He was stupid enough. So I went back and forth with him on Twitter yesterday. I did not want to block him. I wanted to keep that open so that I could see what he's saying and doing. But he creeped me out repeatedly with following me, and so I finally did. But before I blocked him, before I cut that off, I have screenshotted him of white Jesus hates Jews. White Jesus hates Jews, and Yahweh hates Jews. Hey, Cirucci, are you a Jew? Are you a Jew? So what is the following? So as I said in the Twitter back and forth with him, he claims that I'm misrepresenting him. In no way, shape, or form am I misrepresenting him. I have it on the 20 minutes that he was there before he ran away like a little child, where he makes the connection that Yahweh commanded Nephilim to be completely wiped out, Canaanites, right? And so he makes a lot of these leaps, Luke and Victor. He makes a lot of these leaps as if every Canaanite is a Nephilim, as if all Jews are Edomites and all Edomites are Nephilim. He implies this, and then he traces back, all Jews are Nephilim, Jesus hates Jews, God hates Jews, Yahweh hates Jews, and then he refers to how the Nephilim, the Canaanites, were ordered by God to be completely wiped out. And so what's left? You in the audience, if you're stupid enough, make the connection that Jews need to be wiped out. I said, I'm not misrepresenting you. I am connecting the dots. And the more I talk about this, Victor and Luke, the more I think that he is scripted. He's not a psychopath. It's not that he's some whack job. I think that he is scripted to put this message out there as a setup for the truth community, for a massive crackdown on the truth community.
Yeah, because he admitted during his X-Space with Stu Peters and Adam Green that he cut a deal because that $1 million bond situation that he had, selling the drugs to the kids and in the school zone, they came to him and said, hey, listen, we need somebody to be the Q guy. Because at that time he was young and he was impressionable. And so he made a deal. And then he became the king of Q and had the best-selling book, and he claims that he was making millions of dollars. Now he's the poor guy, and he's the religious freak. And so they switched him from the king of Q to the new Jim Jones. And now that's what he's doing. So he's working it, and you're absolutely right. He's scripted. He doesn't really do any investigative journalism. All he does is he takes other people's work. He doesn't even give them credit. And then he posts it on his channel. And he calls it the Nemos News Network. So I want to share screen here because I want to show you how his audience are a bunch of sycophants. They believe everything that he says. Here's the comments when he posted the debate that you had. And he didn't post the full debate. He just edited out the part that made it look like you were censoring him, which was not the case at all. I don't know if you saw that. So he's got these people that say, I don't agree with everything Dustin believes, but that Johnny is an asshole. Warriors Awakening says, more like a crybaby. He was whining about the screen the whole time. For what reason? So people could look at him, look dumb? LOL. And then the other guy says, yeah, Dustin was right to just end the interview. That guy wasn't worth the time to talk to. So, yeah, he can do no wrong. That's the whole thing with Dustin Nemos. And then he's very manipulative because he was sharing screen during what he claimed was a debate with me, it was not a debate. I was supposed to be moderating a debate with some of his cult members who were calling him out, and they never showed up. So I ended up just hosting him, but he was claiming it was a debate. But notice what he does, how manipulative he is. He'll take emails and then he'll put all different kinds of colors and make it so difficult to actually see the real email. And then he actually takes things out of context completely. He claims that I said that I'm Jesus myself, when in actuality, if you were to read the message, it's not that at all. So it's just very manipulative, and you're absolutely right. He must be getting trained by somebody because these tactics are brainwashing tactics. They're very manipulative.
Well, Victor,
and he's not that smart.
I got to definitely send me any links and data that you have on his arrest and his admitting that he took money and was flipped by the FBI. It makes perfect sense. You mentioned, I guess I'm going to have to go and find this. So Stu Peters, was this all together? Stu Peters, Dustin, Nemos Krieger, and what's his name? Adam Green. What a surprise. Those three individuals have done more to froth up raging Jew hate. Together, the three of them, that is the ultimate. I'm telling you, Victor and Luke, this is a massive counterintelligence government operation. This is a massive counterintelligence. These guys are not out there doing this on their own. Okay? I'm telling you, this is a massive counterintelligence government operation to froth people up. They desperately need a huge outpouring of hatred for Jews, because what this does is it disconnects your ability to think critically. And a handful of Christians, ignorant Christians on the right, are the balance of this. I have a GIF that I created of a pendulum. On the one side, hate the Jews. On the other side, I can pull it up for you. On the other side, love the Jews. It is the Hegelian of control. Love the Jews, hate the Jews, love the Jews, hate the Jews. They need this to keep people disconnected from what's really going on, from what really from the machine, the massive machine that is really a problem for them, really a danger for them. Who is it that's really enslaving them? Who is it that's really a danger to them? No. It's the Jews. It's all, we got to love the Jews or hate the Jews. So, but Nemos, Green, and Peters, were they all on together? I would not be surprised.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it was a 10-hour X space. I've been dissecting it over time because I'm not just following the Dustin, Nemos, Project Pogo, Project Zephyr story. I'm following all sorts of stories. I'm actually a real modern art council journalist. Wow. And what I mean by that is I cover stories that have to do with people who actually come into my life. So I'm not covering like King Charles or Donald Trump. I'm covering Dustin, Nemos, and others who have come into my life like Stu Peters. And what ends up happening is, and I'll send you basically what you, if you want to follow this, because I've been going down the rabbit hole that it seems like you're starting to realize now. The Project Pogo, Project Zephyr. Yes, Stu Peters is a part of that. Adam Green, Handsome Truth was on there with him. The commonality between all these people is they've all been arrested. And having been in the military, I think you've been in the military too. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
They show you how to control these people. And so they make you a deal. And so these guys were informants, snitches, narcs. And they said, we have an opportunity for you. You can either spend time in jail or we can make you rich and we can make you famous, but you got to follow the script. Right. So yeah, all the people that you mentioned. And the thing is, I've been on Stu Peters' show. I've interacted with Handsome Truth. His father was a fan of my show. He contacted me, put me in contact with the son. I spoke with Handsome Truth for over an hour. He was supposed to come on my show. I was supposed to come on his show. Never happened. And Adam Green, I've been corresponding with him for a while. And also, these people are afraid to come on my show because what ends up happening is they get exposed.
Here's another one that I debated, Victor. I debated Adam Green. Not to step on you, but I debated Adam Green. And during the debate, he put on a ball cap, he put on skiing goggles, sunglasses, and was obviously in communication with someone outside of the debate. And it was another trap for me. And I kind of sort of got triggered in that too, because all he didn't have names, places, dates, just like Krieger. This is the game and the show. They don't come out with names, places, and dates because they don't really have anything to stand on. You know what his big thing was? It was so ridiculous that it sort of triggered me. All Christianity is a conspiracy of Jews. The very existence of Christianity is okay. And I said this during the debate. I said, give me some documentation. Give me some secret correspondence between Rabbi such and such. And he had nothing. He had nothing. All he had was what he considered was circumstantial evidence. And it's the exact same format. They know this. Victor, Luke, they have weaponized this debate stupid. They have weaponized the debate. Their goal is to keep things moving, to keep you staggered and unable to respond to them. So after my multiple experiences, I'm completely done with being sucked into the debate stupid. They've weaponized it. They have a mechanism for it, and from my own personal research, all roads still lead back to Rome. The Jesuits own these things. That's why I call it Jesuitical. Manipulating language, manipulating thought, manipulating truth. It's the euphemism, the metaphor is Jesuitical. And their target of the Jews is absolutely consistent. They are desperate. I have never seen in my research, and I have gone through research all the way back to the Roman Empire and before, Babylonian Empire. I have never seen in my research this level of anti-Semitic baiting. of targeting. I personally believe that they are in stark raving mad fear and hysteria. They have to distract as much as humanly possible. Much as humanly possible. And that's why I called him out right away. And I said, you're a clown. You have the nerve to make it sound like you're the only one out there saying this. You are the only one out there saying that all Jews are Nephilim and that we should wipe them out. Yes, but you're not the only one. You're one of thousands blaming Jews and baiting Jews right now. You have the nerve to come out there and act like you're the only one. The narcissism is definitely part of it, and probably part... Victor and Luke, probably part of a psychosis from living a lie. So when you live a lie, you have to cover up, you have to rationalize with psychosis. And the narcissism is a big part of that.
Well, he's definitely a honeypot, and I'm surprised that people don't see that. But he's also got many people working with him. Like I said, the people that leave those comments, they're part of whatever Project Pogo he's got going on, because he couldn't be working alone. There's people there that are financing him quietly, anonymously through Give, Send, Go, and giving him stuff and getting in the comment section and fueling his conversations and claiming that you and I and others are just monsters.
We're Jews.
Yeah. He swears that I'm a Jew. And that I'm a Mossad. But he works with other influencers. He works with Jim Fetzer. He had Jim Fetzer on his pedophile list. And then Jim Fetzer said, hey, listen, come on my show. And then all of a sudden, Jim Fetzer was taken off of his pedophile list. So that's how it works. It's like, oh, okay, you'll have me on your show. I'll take you off the pedophile list.
Victor, here's a tell. Pull those comments up. You have to do it right now. But when you look at those comments, you notice they're no profile nobodies. He could have created these profiles himself. They are no profile nobodies. What you always look for when you have somebody making comments is you have somebody with a stake. You have a profile on a video hub that has a lot of vids, that has a lot of rapport. No, these people making these supposed comments are always have their anonymous names with no substance to the profile whatsoever. So right there is a red flag, okay? I really don't care what these phony profiles supposedly say in relation to how unfairly I treated him. All I did was I took him off of his game. I didn't even realize, Victor, I didn't even realize at the time that this was a trap. This is a well-laid trap where his job is to put on a show completely disconnected from names, places, and dates, completely disconnected from facts, and put on some sort of coast-to-coast Nephilim snake oil show. And I've got a buddy that's like, well, Gary Wayne says that Nephilim don't even look like that. I'm like, I'm not even going there. This is the fruit of all of the guys in the past that have promoted this idea of genetic tampering. I personally believe there's something to the genetic tampering, but what they did was they took that grain, that kernel of truth, and blew it way out of proportion into the massive foolishness of coast-to-coast campfire stories that it is today. The audacity to make the ludicrous claim that all Jews are Nephilim is in and of itself proof of the fruits of this foolishness that has been. It's not investigative journalism. And me, like an idiot, I studied for 2 days. I had knots in my stomach worrying for 2 days. Okay, so how do I prove when you look up the internet that the Rothschilds really don't run at all? He loves to throw out George Soros. I even got to a point because he didn't bring up any names, places, or dates. George Soros, right, the Hungarian Jew, who during World War II masqueraded as a Catholic, went around with a Catholic uncle. When you hear Hungary, when you hear Catholic, you should be thinking Habsburgs, black nobility. That never came up. He masqueraded as a Hungarian Catholic and collected Jewish property on behalf of the Gestapo. And then I've got the video. He told 60 Minutes, happiest time of my life. Happiest time of life. And the 60 Minutes host was like, well, don't you have any guilt? No. Somebody would have had to do it. Now, step back. If you are a malignant puppet master, George Soros is exactly who you want to represent evil Jews. He's exactly the guy that you want to funnel billions to. because he's a complete and total traitor. And that's your evidence. That's your ultimate evil Jew is George Soros. He's one friggin' guy, and he's got a couple of kids managing his fortune. Are you kidding me? That shouldn't work at all. I went and I've got an absolute blockbuster of a reveal. So the big thing is the Khazars. The Jews today are fake Jews. They're not even real Jews. They're synagogue of Satan. They're not real Jews. They're Khazarians, and so. If you go back in history, it turns out that there's a kernel of truth to this, that Khazarian Jews were genocided around 1000 AD by the Kiev and Rus, modern Slavs. And they were replaced. You know where they're replaced with? Khazars. They were replaced by, in the Middle Ages, the Doria, the Italian Catholic Doria family from Genoa went in and created this new Khazarian, they call them Khazars with a G. And this is the basis of the fake Jews of today. The Italian Catholic Doria banking family is the genesis for this fraud that Jews run the world, and Jews especially run banks. I never even got a chance to get into the point that who created usury banking? I think I actually did touch upon this with the fakeologist. And I got clowns, people that know me. Oh, you pussed out. You didn't know what you're doing. He beat you. All I did was bring names, places, and dates. Who created usury banking? Did Jews create usury banking? No, the Templars did. The special forces of the Catholic Church telling Christians they had to go on pilgrimages. The Catholic Church, right? And so they'd go and they'd get robbed, and they needed protection. So the Templars stepped in, and no, the Catholic Church is not allowed to commit usury. So they created this fraud of taking care of the valuables of Catholic pilgrims, giving them a receipt with a cipher that only a Templar could decode. They go on their pilgrimage, and then they come back to a Templar armory, and they show the receipt, and the Templars say, okay, this is what you got in return, and you owe us this percentage of your valuables. It's an absolute historical fact. The Templars, the Medici, the Farnese, the Doria, they were the creators of usury. The Catholic Church desperately needed patsies because they were taking heat from becoming super rich off of usury, which is against their own canon law. So they needed patsies, and who better than Jews? The Middle Ages through to today. I never really had an opportunity to exploit that because I'm dealing with names, places, and dates, and that Luciferian shill is talking about how all Nephilim are all Jews are Nephilim. That's not a debate. That's a show. And all I did was I interrupted the show, and he left like the child that he is. And I'm bringing data. I'm bringing history. And the mere fact that people out there insulting me and claiming that I lost and I'm a jerk and I'm an asshole. Get out of here. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Anybody that gives this guy the time of day is either a fool or a fed. That's all there is to it.
So I agree with you. I believe the man is demon possessed because the way that he acts, but there's other anomalies that I and others have noticed. He was a weekly guest on my show, and every time he came on the show, his children were on the show as well, because he would bring his kids on the show, and they would sit on his lap, and they would interact with me and the audience and stuff. Ever since he took off during that, again, it wasn't a debate. I was just asking him to show proof of the emails that he had with the son of Enos' mom, which he never did. Then he claimed that I muted him, but I didn't mute him because you could hear him saying, you're muting me, which is ridiculous because if he was muted, you couldn't hear him saying that. So ever since then, his children have disappeared. He claims, and he keeps using it to grift from his audience, that I am trying to get Child Protective Services to come after him, which is not the case. The woman Jackie Wycombe and Mike, another guy that are part of his cult, they were coming on my show to present evidence claiming that his children were in danger, and I was just hosting them. I wasn't saying one way or the other. He completely manipulated and turns it around, and to this day he claims that I'm saying that CPS should take his children away. He also claims that I'm near the Russian border. He stated this, and I've got the evidence that he said it, that I somehow caught a flight, went to Florida where he's at, hopped over a fence, went to his yard, cut some wires in his yard, and then tried to burn him and his house down. And I did a poor job of it. Can you imagine? And then I somehow flew back without finishing the job. Like, I would actually do that. I don't know if he realizes how expensive and how timely that would be for me to then just fly over there and cut a ground wire, which wouldn't burn up his house anyway. But to this day, he's still grifting his audience, claiming that I'm a Mossad agent and that we're trying to kill him and his children. Nobody's seen his kids since. And then, of course, he says that there should be no race mixing. But meanwhile, he has a wife who is not white, and he has children. And people are saying that those kids and the wife are probably like what happened with Obama, where they say, okay, we're going to give you these fake kids and this wife, and this is the role that you're going to play, because he's playing the role to be the honey trap. The other thing that is an anomaly is I don't have a wife, I don't have kids, okay? I do this show. And like you, I do preparation for the show before the guests come on. I have to, like, there's a lot that goes into making this show, but I'm a one-man show. I was communicating with you. I don't have somebody who's like, my producer or anything like that. But somehow he manages to have several accounts on X and on Telegram. And
BitChute.
he makes all sorts of, like, who has time for that? I'm not even on X, and there's a reason why I'm not on X, because that seems to be very time consuming, and I don't have time to be arguing with idiots like Dustin Nemos. You know what I'm saying? It seems like really a dark place. But he has at least 20 different accounts, and he goes on there and then he praises himself in those accounts. So that's why, like you're saying, some of these comments that are there are actually him leaving comments about himself and about others. Again, who has time for this if you have a wife and supposedly 4 kids and dogs? Somebody's financing this guy. Somebody's working with him. There's no way anybody could do that. And he spends he was 10 hours on X with Stu Peters. Who has 10 hours to spend that much time on X? And you're saying he was arguing with you the other day? How long was he on with you, arguing with you?
Yeah. So listen, I would tell you, I agree with you. When you're listening to what you're saying, Victor, you know what comes to my mind? Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, another massive intelligence operation. Charlie Kirk and his children always have their backs to the camera.
Yeah.
Set up.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you. I will tell you, I am beside myself because I had taken time off from making no money with daily regular streams to go back to writing books. And I have been interrupted. I'm in the process. I'm about a fraction of the way into my 6th book. And I was interrupted by this individual with this really, really weird email address that I've never seen before, jumping in and saying, "Oh, Johnny, you need to get in and take the Nemos challenge." I knew there was something not right about it. The more I look back on it in hindsight, the more I feel like I was pulled into a trap, because he has a very slick operation, and I guess I was targeted because I'm a real journalist and I was focused, just like you're saying, Victor. I don't have time for this. I don't want to take time off, but I'm going to focus on it now, because at the bare minimum, this is a psychotic who is a Pied Piper. But at worst, this is an agitator. This is a fed agitator whose job is to pull people in and be targeted. As we already covered, back in 2021, Reuters pointed to this guy, showed his real name, showed him as part of the QAnon operation, and painted him to be a conspiracy theorist whack job. So you and I and Luke, we're actually asking questions because we're not buying the official narrative. We are all part of the Justin Nemos Krieger cult psychosis, according to mainstream operations. That's how they lump us in, and they will crack down when the time is right.
Now, does he attack you as much as he attacks me? There doesn't go 1 week where he doesn't spend time on his shows attacking me, claiming that I am, again, a Jew, that I'm a Mossad, that I'm a pedophile, that I am, just you name it, he's said it about me. The way I see it is the guy's giving me free publicity, and I'm like, thank you, I've got free rental space in his mind. But again, it's just like he's trying so hard to discredit me. And the thing is, the reason why I have credibility is because I don't have corporate sponsors. My sponsors are my audience, and I got real people. They donate $5, $10. I mean, but like I said, I've gone on his channel. I've shown people his Give, Send, Go. You can go to his Give, Send, Go page. He denies it. I'm like, how can you deny it? It's right there. Look at he gets donations in the thousands of dollars. That's not normal. Like, you know, I don't get like a monthly somebody donating $1,000, $3,000, $5,000. That would be fantastic. I would love that. But no, that's not the way it is.
Victor, Luke, I had to step down from doing regular streams because I was making about $100 every 8, 9, 10 days in donations. And even though my beloved wife, she and I swapped roles once I got out of the military, I never intended to do this never intended to do journalism for a living, especially real journalism that no one would pay for. I never intended that. I tried my hand at jobs. The good Lord's got a sense of humor. So we've swapped roles, and I'm Mr. Mom now so that my wife can pay our bills. And even that is not enough, as you all know, thanks to the destruction of, particularly in America, the Federal Reserve, destruction of the buying power of the dollar. So I had to step down from that. I have no money either. There's no money in truth, Victor, but there's plenty of money in Jew baiting. There's plenty of money in being a Fed. There's plenty of money in being flipped. So, of course, Stu Peters is huge, huge. And where's he huge? He's huge on Rumble. Who started Rumble? Peter Thiel and J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, who is a Roman Catholic. Peter Thiel, homosexual, who was mentored, was it Harvard or Yale?
Vance.
Yeah, mentored by a devout Roman Catholic. It's all a massive counterintelligence government operation. Mike Flynn, the former head 4-star general of the Defense Intelligence Agency, connected to the gambles. Go ahead.
Hanging out with Dustin Nemos
right.
at Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
And I had guests on my show who were credible, and I did my research on him. Yeah, he's involved in money laundering, child trafficking, and human trafficking, General Michael Flynn.
Right.
So, yeah, they're using him as well. All these people are compromised.
That's how they use them. The game is this. Victor and Luke. The game is they have to govern from the far left because the answer to everything on the far left of the political spectrum is more government, bigger government, crackdowns on freedom to make you safe. So they're not worried about the left. The Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, Trudeau, Castro, son of Trudeau, all of these over in France, and of course they're all Catholic, hard left Catholics. They're exactly what they are. They're hard left. Crackdown, more government, less guns, fewer guns, wide open borders, more taxes, more government, more surveillance state. That they don't have to touch the left. They have to go after the right. And the more you question official narratives, the more dangerous you are. And this is why they need the Stu Peters, the Dustin, Nemos Kriegers, and the Adam Greens. This is all, I'm telling you, there's a little bit of a deduction on my part, but it absolutely has the hallmarks of being a massive counterintelligence operation. And you put it yourself, you mentioned it yourself, just how slick everything is. The amount of money going into this shows this is not just free will donations feeding this. This is not just free will donations. This is a very, very slick mockingbird counterintelligence operation as far as I'm concerned.
By the way I fell onto this was that I was, and I still am, getting blocked and censored on BitChute. Now, I thought that was shocking because that's supposed to be a free speech platform, and he offers $10,000 if you have proof that you've been banned and censored. Now, I recently appeared at Anarchapulco 2026, the Genesis that happened in Puerto Vallarta, and I did a virtual presentation there. And before that, I was CCing Stu Peters, Ray Vahey, and Jeff Berwick to let them know with the screenshots of my videos being blocked and the message from Dustin Nemos bragging that he's friends with Ray Vahey and that he will email Ray Vahey to make sure that my videos are taken down. The videos that I was exposing Dustin Nemos in his own words, stating to Stu Peters that he's more of a pedophile than I am, that he did a deal with the U.S. government when he was arrested, and that he's a narc and that he's a snitch, and all these different things. I was exposing him in the snippets on BitChute. They stayed up on Rumble. Dustin Nemos contacted Rumble, said that he would sue them if they didn't take it all down. The thing is, these are all statements that he made. I didn't make these statements. This was all in his own words. Ray Vahey, after Dustin Nemos emailed him, blocked them, took them down. And I have the receipts. I have the images of where it says blocked. I have the emails that I sent to BitChute support and to Ray Vahey, CC'd Stu Peters, saying what's going on. Of course, he didn't say anything about this when he was at making his presentation at an Acapulco. But yeah, these guys actually work together. Plus, I gave him the information. I said, where's my $10,000? I invited Ray Vahey on the show to explain what's going on. To this day, I have almost 6,000 followers on BitChute, right? Which is strange because I keep staying at that level. I never go higher. But that being said, my videos barely get 200 views. So that doesn't even make any sense. There's 6,000 subscribers and less than 200 of them watch any of the videos. And I have like good guests on my show. So that doesn't make any sense.
Victor, I don't exist on BitChute. BitChute is the premier format, the premier venue for vicious Jew baiting. Vicious Jew baiting. BitChute is the premier format, the premier venue for some of the worst Jew baiting anywhere, and I don't exist. And I've had a pretty darn good profile there for years. And exactly like you say, worse than you, I put up a video and I'm lucky to get 100 views, and very often on ratioed I'll get 3 likes and 3 dislikes, or maybe 4 dislikes. I'm horribly shadow banned. Clearly, either I don't know what I'm talking about and I'm really bad at what I do, or there is a massive shadow banning system in play that doesn't allow an alternative point of view, a true point of view, a point of view that questions the frauds in alternative media. So please, you got to understand that this is, once they kick you off of YouTube, once they get you off of YouTube, they have taken you down to about 10% of what you used to have. And that's with the shadow banning. I've experienced this repeatedly. And then once they send you off to these other platforms, you're even worse as far as their control, their ability to control you. Odysee was kind of open for a while. They did a lawsuit on Odysee and took it over because Odysee had its own digital currency. Oh, you don't dare compete with the banksters, with the central banksters. So they took Odysee over, and that was about as free as it was, and nobody heard of Odysee. So you had this one platform way out on the side nobody's heard of. That was still free. That wasn't enough. They have an absolute death grip on all media, from YouTube down through Rumble, down through BitChute. They own everything. It's all thoroughly controlled. Like we said earlier, are you kidding me? The Vice President of the United States helped found The Alternative along with Peter Thiel. What? I promise you all, it's thoroughly controlled. Elon Musk, I've often said without a lot of names, places, and dates, that I'm convinced that he is simply a puppet and a figurehead, a name and a face for a massive CIA operation. Jeff Bezos is connected to the CIA through his adoption, his Cuban adoption, his father, all the way back. There was a CIA adoption program that he's part of, and now he's one of the most powerful men in the world, running operations, civilian operations into space, right? And the same thing with Elon Musk, and he's naming his Tesla, takes over Tesla cars. Guys, I promise you, this is all operation. Oh, and by the way, as I'm sure many of you in the audience know, you've got FBI analysts such as John Trump running in when Nikola Tesla dies, and they run into his hotel room and quickly confiscate all of his data. And John Trump is one of the guys that happens to be there to decipher the data for the FBI. The FBI, founded by Charles Joseph Bonaparte, daily mass, devout Roman Catholic, great-grandnephew Napoleon Bonaparte. So these are the names, places, and dates that I never got a chance to get into, because he wants to push his magic show of Jews or Nephilim. Okay, and you can't do debates, because it is weaponized theater. It is absolutely weaponized theater. React. Let me monopolize. Let me share the screen. Let me own the screen, and I'll do with it just like you said, Victor. Oh, I'll have these colors, and I'll be Victor Jesus. See that? That's all he pops out on the screen. It is a weaponized form of theater. Okay, and if you pull him out of that, then he runs away like a child.
Yeah, it's mind control. And the other thing that I've noticed, and again, I'm sharing this information because you're doing research on it, so I'll lead you to this so that you can have because I've been doing a lot of research on this, again, because I've fallen into it. I was a guest on Stu Peters' channel several times. I've been on his channel, not only Stu Peters' show, but also on the Christopher Key show. So probably about 8 times I've been on the show. November 23rd, 2025, I got a death threat from Stu Peters' network producer Zachary Winkle, titled "You Will Die," and then signed "Death." Very strange. I've never received an email like that in my life. That's a death threat. I contacted and forwarded it to Stu Peters and to Christopher Key and said, hey, you guys may want to be aware that there's a psychopath working at your network who's sending your guests death threats. And the response from Stu Peters was very bizarre. And I never received a response from Christopher Key or from Zachary Winkle. To this day, no apologies, no, oh, we'll make sure we look into it, nothing. The other thing is, I was on Stu Peters' show the last time because Mike Adams of Brighteon, who's supposed to be a free speech network, they censored my interview that I did with a guest who was arrested for naming the Jew. And Stu Peters was on there, and he was lambasting Mike Adams for censoring me. Then he got a call from Jim Fetzer, because Jim Fetzer was bragging that, oh, I made a call to Stu Peters and told him he needs to rectify the situation. Because I also exposed Jim Fetzer, who's also controlled opposition. And so within 48 hours, my video about being censored on Brighteon by Mike Adams was censored on the Stu Peters network. It was set to restricted and private, which means that the only way you could watch the video was if you somehow had Stu Peters' email address or phone number or one of the producers, and they would give you the code to see it. So that's censorship. And then Jim Fetzer was on the show immediately. So these people all work together. And then recently, last week, I uploaded a video, and I have the screenshot. I bring receipts. That's why people know that, like, if you come on my show and you're either going to expose yourself or I bring receipts. Yeah, Mike Adams is still censoring my videos. So this is supposed to be a free speech network. The other thing, I don't know if you're aware of Dave Gahari of FTJ Media, which stands for Fuck the Jews Media. He was wooing me, and I have the emails that he was sending me saying, Victor, we'd like to have you as part of our network. Come on the network, we'll give you your own show and everything. Immediately I was like, this is a honeypot. Who names their network FTJ Fuck the Jews? And the people that he has on there are admittedly, again, honeypots. They're COINTELPRO. So yeah, I said no to that. And then, of course, because I've said no, I've been attacked by all these people. They've made $60 million lawsuits against Rumble and BitChute, telling them that they need to take my channels down. And my channels are still up. But yeah, they're really going after me because I'm exposing them. That's the whole thing.
You're putting the brakes on their operation, Victor, and I will tell you, the mere fact that they exist, as I said in my opening statement, this is absolutely intuitive. You just ask yourself these questions. If you completely rule the world, you own all the money, you own all the governments, you own all the tech, you own all the sources of information, what's the first thing you want to do? disappear. The first thing you want to do is disappear. Now, what's the second thing you want to do? You're in your hidey hole. You've got your footprints up to your entrance of your hidey hole. You want to erase those footprints. You want to grab a patsy and shove them out where they would be looking for you. That's exactly what we have. That's exactly what we have. The FTJ network, are you out of your mind? The mere fact that Dustin Nemos Krieger posts on Twitter without any problem, white Jesus hates Jews. Yahweh hates Jews. Hey, Cirucci, are you a Jew too? You're out there defending the Jews. Are you a Jew, Cirucci? How do you get away with that if the Jews own it all and rule it all? Okay, clearly there is a higher power, a higher authority that's running this. And if I had any investigative authority as a government representative, I absolutely would be looking into the parentage, the possibility that someone that's posting on Twitter, white Jesus hates Jews, Jews are Nephilim, Yahweh wants all Nephilim wiped out, I absolutely would investigate the ability of that individual to be a non-abusive parent. But like you were saying, I have questions. I think I don't mention my wife. Okay? I don't want her brought into this. The mere fact that Krieger goes out of his way to mention and use wife and children makes me suspicious that they're props, just like you suspect. So,
but nobody's seen them. That's the whole thing. Again, what's very suspicious is, and he also told me this because he wanted to go to Taiwan because he says that he fears for his life over here. But they wouldn't let him in because he's got an extensive criminal background. I was living in China. I still have a visa to go live there until 2029. They did a serious background check on me. They wanted to make sure that I'm not CIA, that I have no criminal background. I mean, I am like, believe me, if there was anything on me, they would have found it. They're making stuff up. Dustin Nemos put out some bizarre rap sheet claiming that it was me. And it was some guy in New Mexico. This is the worst thing about it. Some guy in New Mexico was driving his car with a boombox that was too loud, and he got like a traffic violation or something like that. That's it. But that wasn't even me. I've never lived in New Mexico. And that's all he got. But the way he makes it seem is, oh, it's 72 pages. Yeah, it was 72 pages of a bunch of people that are not me thrown in there, a bunch of jobs that I've never had. So they use fake information. And of course, he's still claiming that I'm a CIA and all this other stuff. But he gets the backing because Jim Fetzer says it. Susan Bradford goes out there and writes Substack. So all these people are so-called influencers, but they're all controlled opposition. They're all patsies. They're all working to try to discredit people like me. I don't know if they're doing that to you too, but yeah, that's their job, is to just try to discredit. And then of course there's people who believe it. They swear that I've never even been to China. I'm like, that makes no sense. There's newspaper articles. I was on television in China. There's all sorts of. I've even shown my visa and everything. I've shown it all. I'm an open book. But these people are so lazy they don't even look it up. Are they trying to discredit you too?
I haven't, honestly, Victor. I try to stay hands off. I fully expect, starting with this on from Sunday on, starting with this interview here and with the expose that I'm going to do on him, they may attempt to do so. But negative press is just that. It's still press. I will be surprised. I would say bring it because I'm a real journalist. Names, places, and dates. My first 5 books averaged 700 pages and 1,000 citations. They probably want to steer clear from that. They probably want to steer clear from real data, and they want to focus on these frauds and these shills. And by the way, I would ask you, please, if you have this stuff aggregated, please send me clips, files, hyperlinks, especially of him admitting that he was arrested and flipped and given $1 million. Please send me that, and I will add that to my expose, and I will credit you for your help in me putting this expose together. I really don't think that they're going to give me a lot. He's ridden this a little bit, but I think it's going to peter out, and either way, I don't care. My work stands on my work. That's the great thing about being honest, sincere, and a real investigator. I am who I am. And in relation to way back when I was doing an audio only podcast, one of my last interviews was with Jim Fetzer. Nice guy. I was attacking him regularly for the same reasons I'm sure that you question his bona fides, as we say in Rome. And somebody intervened and jumped in and said, "Hey, Johnny Cirucci says you're about this," and he was nice about it. So I brought him on the show. YouTube immediately took it down. But just as a quick aside on Jim, here's what I think. This is the game they play. Victor and Luke, this is the game they play, okay? So he put out a book that was banned by Amazon. Nobody died at Sandy Hook, okay? It's actually, as far as my research goes, it's actually a half-truth. It's a half-truth. I am convinced, now, when it comes to false flags, there is a massive spectrum of how to manipulate people via a false flag. Very rarely is an event completely fabricated. Very rarely. They need some sort of substance to hook people. Every first responder is not read in. The people who are read in are very, very few. It's called compartmentalization. The Jesuits know this well. The CIA knows this well.
NASA knows it pretty well as well.
Absolutely. NASA does. MI6, MI5, they all know this very, very well. It's all compartmentalized. The people that are in the know, that are read in, are very, very few. I personally believe, now I've been on the receiving end, so before this comes up, I will tell everybody that I have made my legal name my mother's maiden name. I'll tell everybody right now, I've got a video on this. I'm very public about this. Johnny Cirucci is my maternal grandfather. He's the man I was named after. I used that name when I was in the military to protect my family, and I've made it. I have spent money. That is my legal name. That is who I am. I'm not misrepresenting myself like Krieger is. Would you believe that one of the crisis actors, Lenny Posner from Sandy Hoax, pursued my channel, and had a sting operation with YouTube, where Google YouTube threatened me to take my channel down if I did not disclose fully all of my personal information data. I did that, and they took my channel down anyway and gave all my data to Lenny Posner, who is absolutely a crisis actor. I firmly believe, and I don't have hard data on this, I firmly believe that Noah Posner is a real child. I fully believe that Noah Posner was trafficked and killed, and one of the reasons why that Lenny Posner was maniacal about all this is he was part of it. He was part and parcel of it. What I've seen, an absolute modus operandi of these demons, of these Luciferians, it is not
like the McCanns.
Oh my goodness, yes. Oh, the Roman Catholic McCanns. Absolutely. They're all in on it, that this is a willing sacrifice. John Benet Ramsey, the parents were in on it. Listed. I fully suspect that, oh my goodness, I remember the paperboy, the kid. There's Johnny Gosch. Okay, Johnny Gosch. I'm very suspicious of Noreen and John Gosch. That's not what I've seen in my research. Kids don't get snatched off the streets. Families rape them. Families put them into the system. Okay, so I fully expect that this is going on, and I fully expect that that's what happened to Noah Posner, and that's why Lenny Posner went on a tear after Sandy Hoax, to take down anybody that shows copyrighted Noah Posner's photograph, right? They took me down. They went in, dug up my birth name, connected me to that, and he tried to blackmail me through pinpointing my wife as well. To this day, I owe him more anger than he could possibly imagine. I want to put that out. Jim Fetzer with the half-truth of nobody died. I firmly believe, and this is borne out by what Connecticut did, I firmly believe that the Sandy Hook false flag was meant to be a repository of death certificates for children who have been sacrificed and killed. And Noah Posner was one of them. And that's one of the reasons why the kibosh was put on Sandy Hook, was to cut off the ability to examine those documents. And that's a fact. It's Connecticut state law now, is that you are not allowed to see death certificates. What? Are you kidding me? Why not? Because it's all part of a massive false flag. So it was a half-truth. It's not that nobody died at Sandy Hook. It's that nobody died in that false flag. The truth, that from what I've seen, is that the event was used as a dumping ground for children like Noah Posner. So that's my take on Jim Fetzer. Just one experience with Jim. Nice guy to me. Nice guy. Appreciate him. But I absolutely agree that he is thoroughly controlled opposition for that reason.
Yeah, Juxtaposition also pointed that out, that he's COINTELPRO. And what happened was, I was a regular on Jim Fetzer's show. He had several shows, and I was on both of them. And I was weekly guest on the shows. He's been on my show. And then what happened was I had Win Young, the Supreme Court attorney, who was investigating the Alex Jones Sandy Hook and the Jim Fetzer Sandy Hook. And it turns out that both Alex Jones and Jim Fetzer took the fall, because not only was it exactly what you just said, because that area is very satanic and very CIA, and they had all sorts of like ritual murders of the children there. And you're right, they slipped in the birth certificates. But it happened during the Obama administration, and it was to take away the First Amendment, the free speech, because they don't want the journalists to speak. That's why they gave such a ridiculous thing with Alex Jones, where he had to pay like $1 million, bazillion, quadrillion dollars. So all the journalists now are afraid to do their job. Also to take away the Second Amendment. So what happened was Jim Fetzer was brought in as the patsy to write that book with Dave Gahary and FTJ Media, who will get, and the thing with Dave Gahary, the reason why he's also a patsy is because he was involved in a Security and Exchange Commission lawsuit. He was getting ready to go to jail for a long time, but just like what they did with Dustin Nemos, just like what they did with Jim Fetzer, because he's also got an arrest record. The common thing with all these people is they've all been arrested and they've all been made a deal. You know, either you work for us and you become a narc, or you go to jail for a long time. So yeah, Jim Fetzer took the fall. Now, the reason why they had to cover this all up was because the Smith-Mundt Act didn't come out until 6 months after Sandy Hook, which means that all the propaganda that was going on during the Eric Holder administration, that's treason, what they did. So all this thing was a cover-up. And then the case went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and it was kiboshed by Obama put in Justice Sotomayor. And so they shut it down. Now, Jim Fetzer was pissed because he's like, how come you had this guy Win Young on your show? He's calling me out and everything. And I'm like, listen, man, you can't tell me who to have on my show. You know, like, I'm sure Dustin Nemos now is going to not only go after me for having you on the show, whatever. Like, it's my show. I bring on whoever I want. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, after that, Jim Fetzer totally attacked me. Like I said, he even sued his local police chief because he said that they need to file criminal complaints against me. And he also sued his mayor and said they need to have Interpol extradite me to the United States because of my show, because I play clips on my show. And he's claiming that the clips that I show of him, Jim Fetzer, lying, are giving him a heart attack, and that it's elderly abuse, and that I'm trying to kill him. Can't make this stuff up, man. I've been documenting this stuff, and it all goes back to, again, because you and I are real journalists, and we have real people on the show, and they don't like the fact that we're interviewing these people, because like you said with the whole Charlie Kirk thing, if you're not saying that Charlie Kirk is dead, which I believe that whole thing was set up, I believe he's in the witness protection program, Valhalla. I'm a filmmaker. I know what they did. That whole thing stinks to high heaven. But if you don't say he's dead, they won't have me on the show. I got to go along with the script, you know? And I'm not going to do that, man. I'd rather be on the edge of, I don't know, somehow people find my channel. You know, somehow you and I are here thanks to Luke. But yeah, man, I mean, it's crazy. By the way, what are the names of your books, if you can
Thank
name
you,
them?
yeah.
Then,
so the first one was Illuminati Unmasked, and I wrote that in my search. I walked through back in the 90s when I was trying to wake up and find my own way through truth. It was obvious that mainstream media was all hard left, and I had drifted. I was, as an Italian Roman Catholic, conservative Italian Roman Catholic, I drifted towards conservative alternative media. Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, Irish Catholic Sean Hannity, Irish Catholic Bill O'Reilly. Laura, what's her name? All of it, the whole Fox News, the whole.
Loomer?
Say again.
Laura Loomer? Is that what you're talking about?
No. Ingram. Laura Ingram. No, I'm talking 90s. Way back. She's a multimillionaire, Laura Ingram. Roman Catholic, multimillionaire. Fox News, right? Rupert Murdoch, non-Catholic, and Knight of Malta. Okay, but the Jews run the media, right? The Jews run the media. So I was trying to find my way, and I just, obvious to me with the advent of Barack Obama, I knew for a fact, I was still in the military at the time. My boss at the time, Lieutenant Colonel CO, called me in and said, listen, the 2011, this raid on Osama bin Laden, this Navy SEAL 6 Team 6 raid on Osama bin Laden is not what they're telling you it is. I said, sir, thank you. I was a captain. He was a lieutenant colonel. I said, sir, thank you so much for that inside information. I have open sources that told me that, but you are now sealing the deal for me. This was part of the reasons why I kind of got pushed out of the military. But I did my own digging. And it was the nebulous term of Illuminati. Illuminati this, Illuminati that. Okay, that's a nebulous term. It's like deep state. Deep state, Illuminati tells you nothing. It tells you nothing by design. So I'm digging. Obviously, the conservative alternative media is nothing of the sort. Let me go. I spent about two days with Alex Jones before it became obvious that he was also a disinformation operation where he takes people that question official narratives and lampoons them and gives you half-truths and then acts the buffoon and the clown, just like Donald Trump does today. So I walked.
You met Alex Jones? You were on the Alex Jones show?
No. In my own search for information, I walked away from the Limbaugh, Levin, Hannity, and O'Reilly, and I watched the Alex Jones as an alternative before it became very obvious within a very short period of time that his job is not investigative journalism. So from there, I'm looking up Illuminati. I'm trying to pin down Illuminati. I came up with the name Johann Adam Weishaupt, and behind Weishaupt, I came up with Jesuits. No one has ever said anything about Jesuits. I wrote an article that was very well received, and that was my impetus for my first book, Illuminati Unmasked. The Illuminati are this ancient special forces, Templars, Illuminato, into the Jesuits today. Then into a prequel to Illuminati Unmasked was Secret History. All of the history, particularly from the Christian point of view, that has now been erased. That for 1,000 years, the Dark Ages was the Catholic Church burying the Bible. That's 1,000 years. That's what the Dark Ages really were. And that anyone that was caught with the Bible was burned alive. Tortured, have their arms and legs ripped out of their sockets and put back in. Unbelievable tortures run by the Dominicans and then taken over by the Jesuits, also erased. No entity has mass murdered and or tortured more Christians than the sovereign city-state of Rome. If you put military Rome and religious Rome together, it is hands down the sovereign city-state of Rome is the mass murderer. And beheadings, there's no such thing as jihad. No such thing as jihad. As a quick aside, if you say jihad and then you say Al-Qaeda, and then you fail to say Zbigniew Brzezinski, Nemos, you twat. You fail to say devout Roman Catholic Polish Zbigniew Brzezinski, the godfather of both the Trilateral Commission and Al-Qaeda. You're a fraud. You're a fraud. By the way, close friends with JP2, Pope St. JP2, Zbigniew Brzezinski, okay? Here's the names, places, and dates that you won't get from a Fed COINTELPRO fraud like Justin Nemos Krieger. That was part of my the second book was Secret History, all on the erased reformation of Christianity. How the Catholic Church buried Christianity and buried the scriptures by the fires of the Inquisition for 1,000 years, and the battle for reality and truth and the Bible that was freed by the Gutenberg movable type printing press. Luther, Calvin, Knox, Zwingli, all these guys are completely erased now today. The average Christian has no idea. The average Christian is taught Jesuit heresy of futurism. That's Secret History. My third book was the blockbuster Eaters of Children, How the Pedocracy Exposed, How Gateways Are Used for Power. That's all over the internet. Listen, you guys especially, you're welcome. Just give me an email and I will send you the PDFs. My PDFs are all over there. There's no money in this, okay? I barely make any money, and the PDFs for my books are just all over the internet. So that was my third book, Eaters of Children, and a huge success. Go ahead.
Eaters of children. Wow, what a title. Oh,
It's absolutely
man.
true. It's absolutely true in a metaphoric sense, and unfortunately, very often in a literal sense. So I'll talk about it real quick as an aside. Gateways to power. Here's how they control power, Victor and Luke. They control power. Here's the half-truth of David Icke. And I've interviewed David Icke. He was wonderful for me to interview, but he also doubled down on how Christians are fraudulent sun worshipers and reptilians are real. Great guy, nice guy. He was absolutely right about 9/11. He's absolutely right about the corona hoax and the COVID scam. But unfortunately, I think he's playing a role as well as an insider that tells half-truths. It is my estimation that the way to get ahead is to make yourself inhuman, is to crush your divine spark of compassion and empathy. And there are gateways, like Freemasonry, and especially like the Jesuits. There are gateways to power. And each gateway you pass, you're willing to commit more and more heinous acts. Fewer and fewer people are willing to do that. Are you willing to kill a puppy? Are you willing to kill a kitten? Just like Anthony Jesuit Fauci. Quick aside, you say AIDS, you say corona hoax, you say COVID, you don't say Anthony Fauci and Jesuits. You're a fraud, Nemos. You're a fraud. He built his empire of blood on the AIDS scam of mass murdering homosexuals. It was a trial run, a test run. There's no such thing as AIDS. There's no such thing as HIV. It was all what kills you, what really kills you, what makes you waste away and die. It's HIV doesn't cause AIDS, and AIDS doesn't cause you to waste away and die. It's
the drugs that they give you to supposedly
the chemotherapy. Amen, Luke. The chemotherapy drug of AZT, pioneered, taken off the shelf by Anthony Jesuit Fauci. You say that. The very look, the CGI, the computer graphic image of what the corona hoax supposedly looked like is a mirror image of the Jesuit Athanasius Kircher's ridiculous map of the veins of the earth. Fact. Dustin Nemos, you fraud, you shill, you Jew-baiting shill. Pull up the Athanasius Kircher Jesuits, Athanasius Kircher SJ, his image of the veins of the earth, and it is a mirror image of the modern U.S. government CGI of what the corona hoax virus looks like, okay? So if you say all that and you don't say Anthony Fauci, Jesuits, mass murder of AIDS, their trial run, mass murder, oh, you don't care about homosexuals. You don't care about homosexuals. We're going to go ahead and mass murder them with a fraud, just as poor Carrie Banks Mullis, who said, I never intended. Actually, let me be very specific in what he said to the polymerase chain reaction. You can use the polymerase chain reaction to find anything in anyone. It almost makes me want to become a Buddhist. Now, yes, he didn't really say it's not meant to be a diagnostic. That's fine. He said it openly in AIDS protests. You can use the PCR to find anything in anybody, and that is the main instrument they use for seeing if you are HIV positive or corona hoax positive. Okay? Carrie Banks Mullis, what did he die? He died at like 75 years old on August 7th or August 14th. He died on the anniversary of the Jesuits. I think it was August 7th. He died on the anniversary of the Jesuits being resurrected in 1814. Just a coincidence. Right before, in 2019, he was an outspoken critic of Anthony Fauci. An outspoken critic. But before they had to pull off the corona hoax, they had to get rid of him. And so he died on the exact day that the Jesuits were resurrected in 1814. That's a coincidence, right? Dustin Nemos, you fraud, you Jew-baiting shill. Okay? So I really didn't get it. That's my fifth book. We were talking about my third book, Eaters of Children. My fourth book, Romans of Mass Destruction, brings out all of the mass murderers throughout human history and how they've been augmented and enabled, specifically by the Catholic Church. How about Dracula, right? Vlad the Impaler. Nobody knows that he was a knight of the Catholic Church like his father. They created a special knighthood. They created a special knighthood for him to mass murder, just an absolute demonic. And I think... was it Secret History I covered Catherine de Medici? The Medici family, the Medici banks, the bankers. Do you know where the name bank comes from? It comes from the Italiano Banco, the countertop that the Medici and the Farnese and the Doria did their dealings on. Okay, no, those Jews. It's the Jews, right? The Rothschilds. That's the very word comes from the Italian word for countertop, bank, banco, that they did, that they made themselves super rich. The Templars made themselves more wealthy than most nations with usury. Okay, so that was my fourth book, and my most recent book that's been published, Disciples of Ra, is all about all these threads of the Roman Catholic Church through the hoaxes of viruses, vaccines, and scamdemics. So those are my 5 books. Then we're going to spend 20 minutes answering poor Victor's question. What are your books? They're all available on Amazon because nobody's heard me.
Thank you, because honestly, were it not for Luke, I had not heard of you before.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm talking about. You heard me today in the show, names, places, and dates, Victor. If you've gotten anything out of what I've said, you can at least give me a little bit of credit for knowing what I'm talking about and say, okay, he's not just some guy talking in his mommy's basement. He has some pretty decent background of investigation. So that alone should say, if you've never heard of me, there's something else going on. Luke said it in the email. You guys are thoroughly shadow banned.
Yeah, and you know what? Please, let's stay in contact. Send me all your information. What I'll do is I'll put it in the description section, because people should be able to purchase your books and support your
Thank you. Thank you. And please send me any files and links that you have on this Nemos Krieger character, and I will include them in my upcoming expose, and I will credit you and thank you for this time and helping to get the word out. I'm at your service. If you want to bring me back, and God bless you both, especially if you're on the other side of the flat earth and you're tailoring to me coming on 2 p.m. Eastern, I love you for that. Thank you for the inconvenience. I'm at your service. Anytime you want to bring me back, just give a holler and I'll do it.
Oh, it's not an inconvenience. As a matter of fact, the audience is saying they're loving this and that they would like to have you
Praise
back
God.
on the show. I would like to have you back on the show too. I purposefully have not asked you about the Jews because I really wanted to focus on the alternative news media, the mental health crisis that's going on there, exactly what we've been talking about with the Project Pogo, the Project Zephyr, the COINTELPRO, the controlled opposition. But I do want to say, okay, I've been noticing, and a lot of people are noticing, just like we said earlier in the show, that it's the Jews. And yes, the Jesuits and the Roman Catholic Church, to me, all these religions are involved in it. And the thing that I'm noticing being here on this gateway country between Asia, Africa, the Middle East, I see people coming in from Iran. I'm talking to the people from Iraq, from all over the place. And it seems like everybody's in on it. So it's not just the Jews. It's also what I call the satanic Christians who are doing the bidding for those who call themselves Jews but are not, or of the synagogue of Satan. Guys like Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, Dustin Nemos. Because, yeah, their job is to incite the hatred. Like he's always saying, Obadiah, you have to kill every single last Jew, including the unborn children and everything. And I've had Jews on my show, rabbis. I have a weekly guest on my show, Jeffrey Silverman, who's a Jew. So it's like, but I call out the Jews because right now they're the ones being put forward like human shields. So I appreciate the fact that you're bringing in the evidence that it's others. People are calling me out saying, oh, well, Victor, you say it's the Jews. What's your take on the Jews? Because it's not just the Roman Catholics. I was brought up Roman Catholic, baptized, did my confirmation, communion and all. But as I got older and when I went to the Vatican a number of times and what I witnessed there, I was like, wow, this is satanic. This is this is evil, So I'm not taking sides here. I'm seeing that, in my opinion, morality is dead and we've got a serious problem. And the problem is religion, because the religions need governments or kings to carry out their laws, because the religions can't really have militaries. So then they work with the governments and then they work with the bankers. And right now what seems to be happening is all roads are leading to Basel, Switzerland, because they're taking all the wealth of these corporations now. We're not really living under governments. We're living under corporations, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. And then under those layers are the Rothschilds and the black nobility and all these families. But they're using the Jews. And some of the theories that I've heard is that it's actually the Nephilim, the fallen angels, the aliens, whatever you want to call them, and that this is a prison planet, and that they're harvesting our loosh, that they get energy from the children, that feeds them, and that ultimately the Jews are the wardens of this prison planet. And then, of course, you have the Talmud that says that even the best of the non-Jews should all be killed, show no mercy to the non-Jews, and Jews may use lies to circumvent the non-Jews. So those things are making people say, whoa, hold on a second, like, it's the Jews. So what's your take on that?
That is the perfect Dustin, Krieger, Nemos conundrum, cauldron of half-truths and insane fantasies. You show me, you pick, give me names, places, and dates. Not you, Victor, but the audience members, the Dustin Nemoses of the world. They don't really have data. You give me the name like George Soros, and I will give you the manager, BlackRock. They are asset managers. They don't own trillions. They manage trillions. They've only been in play since 1988. They are clearly, look at Silverstein, right? Silverstein bought the World Trade Center just a few months before 9/11. Now, if you were a Jew, the last thing you want to be in musical chairs is the last Jew holding up the bag. The last Jew in the chair, musical chairs. Larry Silverstein, the last Jew holding on to World Trade Center 9/11. If you truly believe that these Jews are stupid enough to be thrust into the spotlight at the last minute and just get caught, you're a fool. You're a fool. Managers, the Rothschilds, the Encyclopedia Judaica stated that the Rothschilds were simply the vanguard, simply the caretakers of the Vatican treasury. Who's one of the biggest clients of BlackRock? You don't look at BlackRock by themselves as just Larry Finks, whatever his machinations. Managers, you look at their clients. You know who the massive client of BlackRock is? The Vatican Bank. The Vatican Bank. Here's a nice little side fact. Who owns? Everybody knows of Watergate. Watergate. Oh, Watergate. What brought it all down? Watergate. Who owns the Watergate properties, both the hotel and the apartment complex? The Vatican Bank. Here's a nice little side for you. John Paul I was going to crack open the books. He died 33 days into his papacy on 28 September, the day after the Jesuit birthday. Here's some names, places, and dates for you. Any Jew that they bring up for me, Victor, is a patsy. Epstein, right? A pimp. He had nobody above him, right? What were his clientele? Guys like Donald Trump. He clearly was a manager and a middleman being managed by who else? Anyone that claims that he was Mossad. If you think for a minute that Jeffrey Epstein had a Mossad operation running and blackmailing some of the most powerful people in the world in America, and the CIA knew nothing about it and they had hands off, you're a moron. You're an idiot. Same thing with Crypto Jew. Another unfalsifiable fallacy. How do you prove or disprove Crypto Jew? You don't. It's just poop you throw against the wall to muddy the waters. Crypto Jew. Here's a fact for you. Tomas de Torquemada, the chief inquisitor during the Middle Ages, mass murdered 13,000 Jewish men, women, and children who were conversos, who were secretly practicing their religion. They weren't power players. They weren't war makers. They weren't banksters. They were simple Jews told that if you don't convert to Catholicism, we will burn you alive. So they secretly, behind closed doors, maintained their religion, and they still found them with the Inquisition's secret police. They went in, they dug them out, they tortured men, women, and children, and mass murdered thousands of them simply because they weren't legitimate, real conversos. They were moranos. Okay? Absolute historical fact. So if you think for a minute that you can claim that Ignatius Loyola or the Catholic Church were Jews or controlled by Jews, you're an idiot, and you give no credit whatsoever. The Catholic Church owns secret intelligence gathering. Felix Dzerzhinsky, the godfather of the Soviet secret police, a Roman Catholic Jew who wanted to be a priest. Here's names, places, and dates that fraud Dustin Nemos will never come up with. Reinhard Gehlen, the godfather of modern Western intelligence, basically a knight of the Catholic Church. Okay, are you kidding me? The CIA founded by Wall Street lawyer, Knight of Malta, Bill Donovan, Wall Street Roman Catholic lawyer. Okay? So that's the CIA, the founding of the CIA. I can name you. Here's proof. Who are the Jews? The Jews own and run Hollywood, which they don't, by the way. You know where the real power is? The real power is in the CIA. The real power is in the government. The real power is in the FBI. The real power is in the NSA. They're all Catholics or Jesuit trained. Okay? That's where the real power is. Any Jew that you can possibly put up, the 2 or 3 names that Dustin Nemos Krieger can put up, managers. I'm not saying there aren't a couple of bad actors here and there, but people like Soros are absolutely content to be targets because they got their millions and billions. They know that they are being targeted as evil Jews. They don't care. They got theirs. They're happy to do it. Okay? The mere fact that you've got Green and Nemos and Peters, massive operations. The things that Stu Peters says and does on the show regularly with huge success, and you have the nerve to complain to say the Jews own the media? Are you kidding me? You're an idiot. And remember go back to who created Rumble. The vice president, the Roman Catholic vice president of the United States was a co-founder of Rumble. Okay? So that's my take, Victor, on the Jews. Now you start saying, oh, they're Nephilim and they're caretakers of this place. Are you out of your mind? How about some names, places, and dates instead of that fantasy bullshit? Okay? So that's scary. Go ahead.
Are you saying it's not the Jews, it's the Roman Catholics?
I'm saying if you can come up with 1 or 2 or 3 Jews, you're talking managers. You're talking patsies. I'm not denying that there are some bad apples out there, and there are people that Noah Harari. What the hell is Noah Harari? He's a nobody. And he's mind controlled, and I think he's homosexual too, which adds to their ability to mind control and control them. Okay? He's a nobody. He's a real power player. They give you these cherry-picked names, Jew names. Oh, Zuckerberg, right? Mark Zuckerberg, the Mo Howard haircut that he has all the time. He's the brilliant guy behind Facebook, right? As opposed to the full history, something that Dustin Nemos Krieger loves to do is cherry-pick things out of context. Go back a year before Facebook starts on February 4th, 2004. And you've got DARPA's experiment with LifeLog, a massive intelligence gathering apparatus. So for generations, they have been cataloging intelligence. They've been stealing intelligence. They have the Jesuitically brilliant idea. How much easier would it be if we tap into the average person's ego and get them to volunteer personal identification information to us openly, and we'll give them pages and pages of agreements, and they'll check it off because they don't want to read it, and we'll ask them to volunteer to give that information, and we'll collect it, we'll collect their photographs, and we'll map their faces, and even when they put a coronahoax mask on, an obedience nappy, we'll be able to map their eyes, and we'll get it that much higher. And by coincidence, 1 year LifeLog is run from DARPA, and it ends on February 4th in 2004, the exact same day that Mark Zuckerberg supposedly creates Facebook, right? We're all that stupid. It's the Jews. You show me a Jew, I'll show you a patsy. Jeffrey Epstein? Nobody trafficked kids before Jeffrey Epstein, right? Nobody's heard of the so-called Franklin cover-up. Nobody's heard of Mark Dutroux. Nobody's heard of all these Roman Catholic operations of raping 9, 10, 11-year-old boys, sodomizing boys. Nobody has a systemic mass rape war crime like the Catholic Church. And by the way, you like how only rank and file priests, if they're arrested at all, they're arrested in their 80s or they're dead. They finally get rounded up. No bishops, no cardinals, no popes ever have anything. Well, George Pell at one time. And then, of course, right before his trial, his one accuser died. I hate when that happens. Nobody else trafficked kids before Jeffrey Epstein, the Jew, trafficked just slightly short of adult teen girls, just like Roman Catholic, possible homosexual Nick Fuentes. It's not pedophilia. You don't know. Yes, they were friends. Epstein and Trump, they were friends. He's a mere fact that Jeffrey Epstein is a household name is in and of itself proof that that's completely scripted. Completely scripted. Okay? You show me the Jew, I'll show you the patsy and the manager. Like I said real quickly, Franklin cover-up. Here's how they really control. We were talking about this earlier. You've got the rabid far left, especially in government. They are exactly who they are. Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, far left communist Roman Catholics. They're exactly what they appear to be. And they drive forward and they get everything they want. The phony, the Paul Ryans, the John Boehners, the phony Catholics on the right are completely empty. They give no victories whatsoever. It's two sides of the same coin. They control the right through sexual blackmail. That's what Franklin was all about. Controlling the Republican Party through the sodomizing of boys. That's what it's all about. Franklin Federal Credit Union, were the boys in the bank vaults there? What are you calling a Franklin Federal Credit Union? Because the guy who was picked to steer that controversy, that scandal, was a guy by the name of John DeCamp. You know who John DeCamp is? You ever heard of John DeCamp? John DeCamp was an ex-CIA operative. John DeCamp was the aide de camp of Bill Colby. Bill Colby, the real power, the warrior priest of the CIA. During Vietnam, he was the Saigon station chief in charge of the Phoenix Project. And John DeCamp was his aide de camp. After the Vietnam War, John DeCamp came back and he settled down. He became a Nebraska state senator, I believe it was. And he says this openly. He was brought in to have an interview with the prefect for the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith. You know what that is? That's the Inquisition. You know who the prefect was? A guy by the name of Cardinal Ratzinger. You know, we all want to be a Nazi youth by the name of Cardinal Ratzinger. He would go on to become Pope Benedict, whatever, number 16. John DeCamp admitted 2 separate interviews with Ratzinger, one when he was running the Inquisition and one when he was a pope. And he was told by Ratzinger, hey, we got to get a handle on this. The boys were coming out of Boys Town, famous, the Jews run Hollywood. Go back to the Spencer Tracy, 1934, free propaganda. Oh, the boys. Oh, those altruistic priests just loving on those poor boys. Millions and millions of dollars running through Boys Town. Here's a name for you, Charles Manson. You ever heard of Charles Manson? He was forced to go to Boys Town by the U.S. government. He was there for 2 weeks, and something so terrible was going on, happened to him, he ran away. And then he later would go on to become a patsy for another big psyop. Okay? No one calls it the Boys Town cover-up, and no one's even heard of the Franklin cover-up. That's real trafficking. Marc Dutroux, in bed in Belgium with the archbishop or the cardinal there. Okay? And trafficking children. Marc Dutroux said openly, I'm just the middleman. He was completely ignored. Okay? That's real scandals. That's real pedophilia. Not Nick Fuentes. Who the heck is Nick Fuentes? Nobody's heard of Nick Fuentes. All of a sudden, he's a superstar. Candace Owens with the idiocy of Emmanuel Macron. His wife is his mother, is his father. Are you out of your mind? And she's a super duper star, right? And here's what she did. They walk you up to the truth, Victor. They walk you up to the truth, and right before you jump into the fire, they distract you with stupid. Here's the truth about Emmanuel Macron. Did you know that his current wife was his drama school teacher at his Jesuit high school? His drama school teacher left her husband and her kids to marry her student. And that perversion and deviancy was what ran France for years. That's Emmanuel, Roman Catholic, Jesuit-trained Emmanuel Macron. But what they do is they take you up to him and they point to him and say, he's out there, he's a criminal, he's out there. And then they spin it with stupid. How much more hitting power would Roman Catholic Candace Owens, who, by the way, is married to white British Catholic aristocracy, who himself is, Farmer, may very well be either homosexual or bisexual. She's probably a beard for him. Okay? And he is in tight with, hiding out in Romania. The masochist there in Romania. Emery.
Yeah, there's a lot of...
No. What's his name? Emery. Tate, right? Tate? Right? Yes. Tate.
I'll take your word for it. Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff going on in Romania. Hey, so when did you ever think it was the Jews? Or did you always think it was the Catholics?
Listen to me. The paradigm of power. Emery Andrew Tate Jr. and Emery Andrew Tate III. Emery Andrew Tate III is almost certainly a homosexual with a vicious hatred for women. And I'm pretty sure there's pictures of Andrew Tate III with, what's his name, George Farmer. Elite Roman Catholic, British Roman Catholic, which his father is in the House of Lords. The paradigm of power is exactly as it was at the crucifixion. Okay? You had Jewish leadership. What did Jesus say at his arrest? You wouldn't dare pick me up in broad daylight when I was preaching in the temple. You wait until darkness to come secret me away, because I am loved by rank and file Jews. It was the power structure that hated him and feared him. And it was the Jewish power structure. They are the synagogue of Satan. They are the ones filled with hatred, and they had no power whatsoever because of a prophecy about Jesus Christ, about the scepter not passing from Judah until the Christ was born. And Jesus was like 9 or 10 years old, maybe had been living in Egypt at the time with his family, running away from Herod. And that's when the Roman power structure took away the ability of Jews and Judeans to govern themselves, perfectly fulfilling the prophecy about Judah. The paradigm of power, Victor and Luke, is exactly as it was at the crucifixion. Jewish leadership, hate-filled Jewish leadership, went with their yarmulkes and skull caps and turbans in hand, begging before the Roman authority and Roman power, please kill this renegade rabbi. That, to me, is exactly what's going on today. Here's proof. The Wailing Wall, okay? You know what the Wailing Wall is? The Wailing Wall is the remnant of the Antonia Fortress. The Wailing Wall, there's, just like Jesus predicted, not one stone will be left on another. That's absolutely a fact, okay? This is how they've punked the Jews. Israel, one of the most vaccinated countries in the world. Do you really think that the Jews want to control the world and then vaccinate themselves into oblivion? Idiots. And they put this stuff out there. Okay? The Wailing Wall, good Orthodox Jews saying their prayers over and over and over again to the Roman military power structure. Who's really laughing? Who's really running the show? That's my take on who's in charge and whether it's the Jews or not.
Wow. Okay. So who's in charge then?
Rome. All roads lead to Rome. And beyond that, Satan. It's absolutely right out of Scripture. She is the whore that rides the beast. The whore is the religious power structure. The beast is the military government power structure. Absolutely recommend, after my 5 books, Rulers of Evil by Frederick Tupper Saucy III. Absolutely recommend it. He nails how the United States of America was created from the ground up to be the sword arm of Rome. He nails the fraud of Rothschilds running and ruling the world. They are the bankers, the caretakers. They are the ones that take the heat as the usurers on behalf of the Vatican funds, on behalf of the Vatican banking. Rome can't take that heat. Who has literally millennia of experience of slavery and control? Rome, the sovereign city-state of Rome. Who owns the confessional? Who runs infrastructure? Who runs schools and hospitals and orphanages? Oh, Jews? Do Jews run all that? The Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church runs all those institutions, infrastructure in bed with your own government. Who helped write the Civil Rights Act of 1961-62? Theodore Hesburgh, the president of Notre Dame, the collared Roman Catholic priest. Who runs Hollywood? Oh, well, I don't know. Who wrote the motion picture code that allows movies to get published or not? A collared Jesuit, Daniel Aloysius Lord, S.J., wrote the motion picture code. And when it was that obvious, they quickly pulled him out and slapped another name on their haze. Who really runs? Even Hollywood. I've got a dossier of 300 names. They just pop up of actors. Alfred Hitchcock. It goes on and on and on. I could read some of them on for you. Alec Guinness, Alfred Hitchcock. I just going through the A's in my mind. These are all Roman Catholics, and many of them, like Alec Guinness, homosexual Roman Catholics. Because that's how they manipulate. That's how they control. Who's really... And Hollywood is nothing. Hollywood is nothing. The real power, even Hegseth, the new Secretary of War, he's got a tattoo of the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre on his chest. Okay, it's the Jews, right? The Secretary of War has a tattoo of the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre on his chest, but it's the Jews running the show, right? Right? I've repeatedly told people in relation to this insane war in Iran, right? If I'm Israel, right? And I've got it in for Iran. And I control the United States, just like Tucker Carlson, I like better. right? Mr. CIA, Mr. Episcopalian CIA. I'm Israel. I'm Bibi Netanyahu, and I own it all. What would you rather do, Victor? Would you rather lay low and bury yourself and have America be your bully and beat down your enemies and you are completely invisible to the world? Or would you rather stand shoulder to shoulder with America and let the spotlight come down on you and say, oh, evil Jews, evil Israel, evil Jewsreal is out there in this needless war against Iran? To me, this Iranian war is a massive false flag, which is the ultimate outpouring of this Jew baiting. I will tell you from the military perspective, America needs no partners whatsoever. America can dominate the world anywhere around the world and needs no partners. The only reason to partner, you partner with one country, Jewsreal, to go attack the Muslim nation of Iran? Are you trying to put a target on everybody? On America and on Israel? Yes. Yes, that's my answer. Sorry for shouting.
So
I'm Italian.
No, that's okay. I love your passion, man. That's great. I'm just taking it all in because this is the first time I've heard.
Yeah,
this
that's crazy.
argument.
That's crazy. I don't know what I'm talking about, Victor. And the first time you've heard this, all right. Clearly, the Jews run it all. Forgive me for going off. It just proves my point. It proves my point. Nobody's heard this before.
Well, I've heard the statement "all roads lead to Rome" before, but I've never heard it broken down in the manner in which you did.
Right.
I've been to the Wailing Wall. I've been to Rome, and I'll tell you, Tel Aviv is a lot more advanced than Rome is, and the Vatican was pure evil. I mean, there's nothing else I could say about it. I don't know if you've been to the Vatican, but I find it hard to believe that such a small country, because the Vatican is a country, is really able to run everything, even
religion,
the Jews,
Victor.
and the
Religion, Victor. Every Catholic is a citizen of Rome. Every Catholic is a citizen of Rome. Not every spy, not every assassin is Catholic, but the Catholics that are citizens. This is why, when it came through to this day, do you know that China, the communists, the CCP, gives $2 billion a year to the Vatican in Peter's Pence tribute? That's from Gao Wengui. Gao Wengui, the real estate mogul. $2 billion a year in Peter's Pence. What is Peter Pence? Look that up, Nemos, you piece of crap. Look up what Peter's Pence is. Peter Pence is the tax the Catholic Church has been taking from countries for centuries, for millennia. And why? Because if you're sovereign, you have a Catholic king or queen, and they're threatened with excommunication, they don't care. The king and queen knows that the vicarious filii Dei, the 666, the Pope has no power over their soul whatsoever. I don't care. Excommunicate me. That's not the point. That's not the point. The point is, when you are excommunicated, the Catholic Church then turns to all of the Catholic citizens of your country. And the Pope says, I absolve you of loyalty to your king and queen. And now the millions upon millions of Catholics in your country become your assassins, become your spy, become espionage, agents of espionage. The nice little Hispanic lady that cleans your toilets is an assassin. The nice little Irish lady that cooks your meals, like Typhoid Mary, who's buried with honors in the Fordham Jesuit Cemetery, where Donald Trump was trained by the Jesuits at Fordham. Oh, well, it's the Jews, Johnny. It's the Jews. How many of? Here's satanic truth. His girlfriend has a Jew beard husband. His girlfriend, his mistress, his daughter, Ivanka, they're all the same person, has a Jew beard. The mere idea that people would say that Jared Kushner secretly runs it all from behind the scenes, you're an idiot. You have no proof of that whatsoever. He is simply the puppet name and face they have shoved on to his mistress. You go back and you look up Donald Trump inappropriate. Look at his interview with Howard Stern. Howard Stern, hey, man, your daughter, she's a piece of ass. Howard, and Donald Trump, yeah. On The View, when he's on The View, what do you have in common with your daughter? Well, I like to say sex, but now, what? Are you out of your mind? Oh, well, look at my daughter. It's beautiful. Listen, if she weren't my daughter, I'd be dating her. Which is a euphemism for having sex with. Look at all the pictures, the inappropriate, of him raising his daughter, always close, always on his lap. That's the kind of blackmail they put you in the Andrew White House. Oh, wait, do you know that the White House actually stands for a Jesuit by the name of Andrew White? Nemos, you piece of crap. You COINTELPRO Fred. Did you know that the architecture of Washington, D.C. is a mirror image? It used to be called Little Rome on the Potomac. The satanic architecture of the phallus of Osiris across from the womb of Isis is exact mirror image, and in fact, to a pornographic scale, from Washington, D.C. to Rome. It used to be called Rome on the Potomac. The property was owned by the sheriff, a Maryland sheriff named Francis Pope. And anytime you see Francis, they're commemorating the Jesuits with the co-founder, Francis Xavier. Oh, by the way, the World Health Organization was born on the birthday of Francis Xavier. Oh, to honor the Jews, right? To honor the Jews, Google, the most powerful aggregator anywhere in the world, changed its birthday in 2006 to the 27th of September to honor the Jews? No, to honor the Jesuits. Nemos, you fed COINTELPRO cockroach. Anyway, so many rabbit trails, I forgot where I was at.
That's okay. I'm learning a lot here. So how about the porn industry?
Who cares about porn? You mean like Guccione, Bob Guccione, the guy that wanted to be a priest and went to porn instead? Porn is throwaway. There's no power in porn. You put as many Jews as you want to control porn. That's nothing. That's not power. Power is war. Power is trafficking. Power is drugs. Power is human beings. Of course you can find a couple of Jews to throw up and pop up for the porn industry.
So what religion do you identify as?
I am born again Christian, and real Christianity is exactly what you said. Real Christianity is decentralized. When you let a human being get in between you and Jesus Christ, you have failed. You have lost. Christ gave the unspeakable gift of standing in the presence of Almighty God yourself by his blood, by his accomplishment on the cross. The Bible is your roadmap, a rule of law, and you use him. He is Jacob's ladder. You stand in the presence of Almighty God yourself. And as soon as you let a human being get in between you, you've lost. Whether it's Jim Jones or Dustin Krieger or the Catholic Church, you have lost. You are being controlled. All religion is of Satan. All religion is of Satan. But a special religion that controls through your ignorance. And that's exactly what's going on here, whether it's Dustin Krieger or the Catholic Church. When you let a human being, the truest form of Christianity is decentralized. You are living your faith. That's why John the Apostle used the metaphor of marriage. Of marriage. You are living. You don't just check the box and once for an hour, once a week, you go on Sunday and you take Jesus, the day of the sun, and you take Jesus out of his cubby hole and you go and you surrender your brain and your soul to a pastor that was trained by Jesuits and promotes Jesuit futurism. Who's the Antichrist? The Antichrist is every pope. The Antichrist is the little horn of Daniel. Every pope that considers himself equal with Almighty Christ, with Christ himself. Whenever the popes speak ex cathedra, they write in capital plural pronouns, blaspheming and pretending to be equal with Christ himself. They are the little horn of Daniel, the great whore drunk on the blood of the saints. You read Revelation 17 and you don't walk away saying that's the Catholic Church. You're an idiot or you're ignorant. You've never seen Revelation 17. The great harlot, drunk in the blood of the saints, clothed in scarlet and purple, exactly as the Catholic Church is. Nemos, you fraud. Okay?
So I'm surprised that you're not like who's that guy with the thick eyebrows, the Jew guy, Ben Shapiro. I mean, why are
they
you,
wouldn't dare. They wouldn't dare give me that kind of power, Victor. They wouldn't dare give me that kind of power.
You're a Christian who is just excusing and elevating the Jews. I'm surprised they don't have you.
No excuse, no elevation. No excuse, no elevation. All I'm doing is I'm shining the spotlight of truth and saying these Jews who are being pushed in the spotlight are patsies. I'm not saying they're good. I'm not saying they're nice guys. They are patsies. They are managers. They are not the decision makers. That's my point. That's my point, okay?
Were they the patsies for September 11th and the Liberty?
Oh, my goodness. All right, here's proof. Here's proof, right? After September 11th, what was the apparatus that was thrown into play? What was the legislation that slammed down, was already written? The Patriot Act. Who wrote the Patriot Act? Did Jews write the Patriot Act?
Wasn't Biden one of the people who wrote the Patriot
No,
Act?
no. A Jesuit Georgetown Vietnamese Roman Catholic law professor named Viet D. Din wrote the Patriot Act to dramatically ramp up the police state. Dramatically ramp up the police state on behalf of Rome.
And bring us in the mark of the beast, because that's where we're heading now with the biometrics and the digital currency.
Listen, from the Christian perspective, those are all tools. From the Christian perspective, the true mark of the beast is simply to think like Satan and carry it out with your acts. The mark on your forehead means what you're thinking. The mark on your right hand means what you're doing. So don't fixate. Those are all tools. The tools can be used in either direction. You better believe the technology and the money and the central banking are all going to be used against us. But they're tools. What matters is who's running the show. The degrees, each and every degree, these are evil people. They think evil and then they do evil. Are you willing to kill a puppy? Just like Anthony Fauci. Your tax money. Don't believe me, New York Post. Your tax money for experiments on puppies. Are you kidding me? Then they experiment on orphans. Then they experiment on children. Anybody without a voice, okay? You say Anthony Fauci, you don't say Jesuits. You're clearly a shill and a fraud, Nemos. You fed. Okay? So I'm not excusing anything. I'm trying to get people to look. I tell people all the time, look at who isn't expendable. These people are expendable. These Noah Harari. Who the heck's Noah Harari? He's a nobody. He's thoroughly expendable. Thoroughly expendable. Who they can't deal without are people like the ones that are running the CIA, people who are running the government, people running the FBI, these Catholics and these Jesuit-trained individuals. Okay? These are the ones that they can't, the war makers, the Hegseths and the Vances. They're the ones that they can't do. They're the ones running the show, making the decisions. These rank and file puppets, the Epsteins and Hararis and even Rothschilds, they're managers. They're managers. Ultimately expendable. We need to go after, the head of the hydra that won't grow back. We need to cut off the head of the hydra that won't grow back. And what I've seen is that's Rome. All roads lead to Rome.
So how do we solve this? Who do we how do we cut off the head of the
layers? First and foremost is informing people. Just look at the insanity of mass child rape by the Catholic Church. Just look at the insanity, and I'll reference my book, Eaters of Children, on that. Generations. Let's pick one name, Jimmy Savile. You ever heard of Jimmy Savile? The guy
who was knighted and best friends with King Charles and stuff.
He is a knight of the British Empire and a knight of the Catholic Church. To this day, a hyper-devout Roman Catholic went to daily mass. Nobody even knew what he was doing until 11 years after his death. And then they decided to slowly out him, and they still to this day have not struck him from the rolls of knighthood of the British Empire, of knighthood of the Catholic Church, because that's who they are. That's real power. That's real power. Okay? So how do we make a difference? Right here, right now. Nobody's heard of me. You've never heard of me, Victor. We have all these facts to catch up on. All these facts. You start letting people know. And it's predicted in Scripture. It's predicted in Scripture that the beast itself, I'm convinced that Jesuit leadership somehow will be too smart for itself and turn on the system. It's predicted in Scripture that the beast will turn on the harlot. The military political machine will turn on the religious machine. And we're talking about the interplay between the United States and Rome. Okay? Revelation 13, the beast of the sea is Rome and the beast of the land is the United States. Absolutely agree with that interpretation. How do we win? This is it right here. We have so much work to do just to wake people up. The mass rape of children by the Catholic Church that they get away with. I'll throw you another name real quick. Names, places, and dates. Nemos, you piece of crap. Okay? Rudy Giuliani. You ever hear Rudy Giuliani? He's one of Donald Trump's lawyers, one of Donald Trump's army of lawyers, okay? Absolute fact. He was a federal prosecutor that helped take the rape of children at West Point and sweep it under the carpet. A Roman Catholic raised by the Christian Brothers, educated by the Christian Brothers. When he took the child rape, oh, hey, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you for having your child rape. You see what the average American would do when they find out that soldiers' children have been raped and Rudy Giuliani, the cross-dressing Catholic, helped cover it up. You see how they react to that, okay? And that is what put him in mayor of New York City. Not a Jew, Christian Brothers cross-dresser Rudy Giuliani was running New York City for the PSYOP. Oh, it's the Jews. Jews ran 9/11. Yeah, right. That's how Giuliani got picked for 9/11, right? To be the gatekeeper. Christian Brothers, they're the same guys that manage the trafficking of children into Australia. Okay? Look that up. The home children apparatus, where they literally kidnap children off the streets of Ireland, England, Canada, island of Malta, look up Knights of Malta, and ship them to Australia and rape them at night and use them for slave labor during the day. They did a movie about it, Oranges and Sunshine. Nobody's heard of any of this. That's my point. Christian Brothers manage that.
So what's really weird is you see the Pope, and he's like this old. Same thing with Biden. You know, they put in these old people, Trump, and they all seem like they're so old and everything. So they're just the figureheads. They're just the puppets. Behind them are the Jesuit assassins and the CIA and all this stuff. And they're the ones who are really running the strings. And then they just put some old guy that looks frail and sounds demented and stuff like that. But so who's really... Okay, I've said that we could fix this problem if we take out the Vatican, DC, and the City of London. Because that's the tripod that's really controlling everything. Also... Basel, the international bank of monetary that is shaped like the Tower of Babel. That's where the evil emanates from. I don't believe it's just the Jews. I don't believe it's just the Catholics. I don't believe it's just the CIA or the Mossad. All of these are working together, and there are just a few families that control all of this, and they're not the ones that we know of. That's why they tell us that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are the richest men. No, they're not. We're going back to the black nobility.
Right.
We're going back to the people that were making trades over in Florence over the bridge. So, but we're also talking about like super evil. This is not, I'm not even sure they're human, because how can you be human and have such a lack of compassion and empathy? Do you think these are actually interdimensional or extraterrestrial beings?
No, they become that way, Victor. They become that way out of their own greed. Out of their own greed, they will themselves into being inhuman. Everyone has a choice. This is another part of Krieger's crap. Another part of Krieger's, you completely destroy the gospel. There's no need for Jesus to die on a cross if you're either born into damnation because of your bloodline or not. John the Baptist said, do not think that your bloodline will save or condemn you. Yahweh can take one of these stones and make them into a child of Abraham. Repent of your sins. Christ, before he called the Jews in front of him, Satan's children said, don't sin. If you don't revel in your sin, you won't be a child of Satan. Okay? So, no, what's really going on is these people are willing themselves out of their humanity, out of greed and avarice and lust for success. Every human being has the same starting point, Victor. Every human being. But if you lust for success to the point where you're a predator, to the point where, just like I've been saying, these cutoffs, what are you willing to do for power? Are you willing to kill a kitten? Are you willing to kill a puppy? Are you willing to rape a child? Are you willing to sacrifice a baby? These are the steps. And once you climb the steps, by the time you get to the top, you're not human. But you willed yourself out of your humanity. You're not some kind of magic Nephilim, space demon, whatever the heck, this idiocy. Do you see how they have the truth and they distract you with the stupid? Okay? These are people making conscious decisions to crush their divine spark, to not have empathy, to not have compassion because of their own greed. They willed themselves into becoming inhuman. That's nothing to do with their bloodline. Okay? They have the ability to be forgiven if they decide that they're in a golden gilded cage. Every human being has the option from their own free will to choose to come out, to re-accept, from my Christian perspective, to re-accept the blood of Christ. They all have choices. You get to a point where you're so committed, you've committed so many crimes that I don't know. I've never done the science on it, but I fully expect that these people, you might be able to do some research and say, oh, they're really not human anymore. They have willed themselves to that point. Okay, and this bullshit of pardon my language, of Nemos, oh, they're Nephilim. No, you fraud. You fed. What is going on is he wants to distract you from the system. The system is how they do it, Victor and Luke. The system is how they do it. They entice you. What are you willing to do for success? And the more you're willing to do, the more blackmailed you are. The more blackmailed you are, the more part of the system. The more loyal you will be, the more you will not give it up, because then you're giving up yourself. They touch upon this. Go ahead.
I'd love to have you back on the show because there's so many topics that we need to touch. But before we go, I'd like to ask you, you didn't answer the question about the USS Liberty. And then also, what's your take on the Talmud and the protocols of the elders of Zion?
Yeah, so Liberty, I've got a source, I've got a quote somewhere of Lyndon Baines Johnson, who was his handler was a Jesuit by the name of Warnebold Schneider. I've got a quote from Lyndon Baines Johnson: "Send that ship to the bottom." And even if it was some sort of an Israeli, look, what's going on at the time? What's going on at the time is a massive machine is enabling Israel. A massive machine is enabling Israel. One ship getting sunk means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. What you want to look at is the creation of Israel. Did you know that the Jesuit puppet, Napoleon Bonaparte, fully intended to create Israel back in 1798, 99? No, on April 19th.
Yeah, that was
totally oblivious to that. Of course. Napoleon Bonaparte was an Italian Roman Catholic, not a Frenchman, an Italian Roman Catholic raised by Jesuits on the island of Corsica. He was going to create Israel. Zev Jabotinsky, his inspiration for creating Israel came in Rome, when he was in Rome, okay? All of these roads lead back from Rome. That means nothing. The creation of Rome, pardon me, the creation of Israel, it was absolutely fabricated. Who cares if whether or not Jews were behind the sinking? I think that and I also think he's a Freemason of Johnson, also a patsy. Okay, look up Warnebold Schneider. He was a Protestant, right? And he's going to mass at a Jesuit church. Him and Ladybird, right? Okay, so completely immaterial. What you need to look at is where did Israel come from? Where did Israel come from? Israel was by design created as a Hegelian dialectic. Oh, let's look at the date of the Hamas incursion. October 7th, right? October 7th, the date of the Hamas incursion, which honors who? Which honors Muhammad, which honors the prophets, which honors Islam? No, it honors the Templars' victory over the Ottomans. You hear what I just said? Muslim terrorists honored the Templar victory over the Ottomans on the Feast of Our Lady of Victory on October 7th. By the way, it just happens to be Vladimir Putin's birthday. And by the way, it just happens to be the date that the separation of church and state United States launched its global war on terror. It's been going on for decades. Did you know that the separation of church and state United States launched its global war on terror to honor the Catholic Templar Special Forces and their victory over the Ottomans? It's the Jews. It must be the Jews. Okay? What was the other one you were asking me about? You asked me about the Liberty and about...
protocols of the elders of Zion and the Talmud.
Right. Protocols of the elders of Zion. An absolute fraud promulgated by a Jesuit priest named Augustine Barrowell. An absolute fraud. You read the protocols, and it is the blueprint of how the Jesuits control things. The blueprint. And the FBI posted on Twitter. Oh, it must be the Jews. It must be the FBI, founded by a devout Roman Catholic, Charles Joseph Bonaparte, post the protocols on Twitter, right? They're not trying to froth people up. Love the Jews, hate the Jews, love the Jews, hate the Jews. Okay? Augustine Barrowell, a Jesuit priest, promoting that fraud. Hang on, let me tell my wife I'm still on the... Hey, give me a call back in like 3 minutes. I love you. I will call you. Love you back. A fraud for the purpose of baiting people. Love the Jews, hate the Jews, love the Jews, hate the Jews. Hang on. I actually have a list. Augustine Barrowell, Jesuit priest who promoted the protocols. I've got a list. How about the Baphomet? The ultimate outpouring of evil energy. The ultimate outpouring of evil energy. Promoted, actually created by a devout Roman Catholic named Alphonse Louis Constant. And you know when he was doing it? He was masquerading as a Jew, Eliphas Levi. Look it up. The godfather of the Baphomet. Talk about agenda. Talk about gender blending. Huh, Nemos, you piece of crap? You fed? Talk about a gender blending agenda that is current right now. Right? Zachary K. Hubbard, you twat, want to slam me because I don't know any current events because I'm not informed? How about the Baphomet agenda going on right now? Trace it back to Eliphas Levi, the Jew. Oh, it turns out he's not a Jew. How crazy is that? Manuel de Lacunza, the Jesuit that created the heresies that all Christians believe. Protestant Christians all believe. We don't know who the Antichrist is. Futurism, right? He did that pretending to be a Jesuit, pretending to be a Jew, Rabbi Juan Yehoshaphat ben Ezra, writing the coming Messiah in glory and majesty. Jesuits impersonating Jews. Oh, it must be the Jews, right?
By the way, that whole thing that happened October 7th, Hamas was financed by Benjamin Netanyahu through Qatar. They actually have his signature on that. Also, I don't know if you've been to Israel. I've been to the Wailing Wall. I've been to Tel Aviv. I've been to the West Bank, Gaza, Palestine. I've been to Syria, Jordan. I could tell you this. That didn't happen the way that they claim.
Of course not.
There's no
of course not. No. But why would they launch it on October 7th to honor the Templars? Because that's who really pays the checks, Victor. That's who really pays. Whether Bibi Netanyahu financed it all. Here's a fact. Arafat was skimming all of his goal as the name and the face of Palestine was to keep Palestinians beat down, enslaved, in camps, and unhappy so that when you need them to, they burst out in anger. They're constantly garnering sympathy all around the world. That's what the system needs. Love the Jews, hate the Jews. You got these frauds like Max Egan. Oh, Palestine. That's all part of the Hegelian dialect. You may have run into him in Acapulco. Buenos dias. It's all part of the show. Love the Jews, hate the Jews. You've got to look beyond that. Stop being jerked around with your emotions. One more. Barack Obama. You mentioned Barack Obama. Did you know Barack Obama was trained in his greatest venue of community organizing by Jesuits? Greg Galuzzo and Jerry Kelman. And what were they running? They were running the Jewish name Gamaliel Foundation. Jesuits pretending to be Jews. Oh, it's the Jews. Ex-Jesuits, Greg Galuzzo and Jerry Kelman were running the Gamaliel Foundation that trained Barack Obama in community organizing. Oh, it's the Jews. Here's names, places, and dates that shill that fed that cockroach COINTELPRO Krieger will never had opportunity. Instead, he gives you this Nephilim snake oil crap.
By the way, I just want the audience to know this wasn't a debate. This was an interview that was put together thanks to Luke. And I like to hear what my guests have to say. I'm not here to argue with anybody. And I can say this. I've met a Jesuit assassin because where I am, this place is like the hotel in that movie John Wick series, The Continental. So I meet
excommunicado, right? That's not Jesuit at all. Excommunicado, right? All about the Wick. So you just say take the Wick name and just call it Jesuits, Victor. I'm sorry for stepping on you. It's the Jews run Hollywood, right? I'm sorry, Victor. Go ahead.
That's okay, but yeah, I mean the Jesuits are serious stuff. So don't take that for granted. They hide in the shadows. And the Jews are put front and center. So I'm not excusing anybody's actions, the Jews, I also know the Roman Catholic Church. I'm just saying it's a lot. It's not just one group. I've been saying it's the satanic Christians as well. And
not real
the
Christians.
Muslims are not excused.
Yeah, in no way, shape, or form is that
the
clown
opiate of
Krieger. In no way, shape, or form is that clown Krieger a Christian. He started off his rigmarole with all of this list of what he is. It's utter baloney, utter bunk. A real Christian is decentralized.
He's
Amen.
Yeah, he's a satanic Christian. He's a cult leader. He's a joke.
Right.
But I just want to thank the audience for listening in, because we've got to be able to listen to each other. And I do invite you back on the show, sir. I think it'd be you've got a wealth of information, and I appreciate you taking the time out to share it.
Love you back, Victor.
I want to let you get back to your
thank you,
lovely wife there, because that's a beautiful thing. It's very important for people to be in relationships. A man and a woman having
Anchor each
children.
other, yeah.
That's the way it should be.
Amen.
And Luke, thank you so much for coming on. And Luke saved the day, because I was here doing a dance here because I wasn't sure what
by
was going
design.
on. And the
By
last
that
thing I
that
wanted
mix up, Victor. That mix up was by design. They didn't. The powers that be didn't want this to occur today. Much love to you. Much love to Luke. Yeah, surprise. All those names, places, and dates, right? I clearly don't know what I'm talking about. I clearly should only be getting 100 views on BitChute. Or maybe I've got something.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you came on, because now Dustin Nemos cannot say that you chickened out. And I was just doing my best to keep the audience engaged in your absence. I'm so glad you showed up. Thank you, Luke, for showing up and being brave and coming on and informing us about what's going on in London. You're also welcome onto the show whenever you wish. You've got my email address. Thank you, everybody, for supporting this channel, visiting the Victor-Hugo-Collection.com. It's you who allow me to have on such various guests on this show, so full of knowledge. I will put all the information for Giovanni Cirucci in the description section. I encourage you all to purchase his books and to support his channel. And I'll also put the information. I urge everybody to check out the interview that I did with Tom Alton, Michael McKibben, Ronald Farnham, The Matrix. Wow, what a show. It's been an amazing day today. Thank you, everybody. Remember, united we stand, divided we fall. Never give up. Never surrender. Keep shining. Live, love, flow.